7.
It's 7 o'clock, time for our regularly scheduled council meeting. Mike, would you take the roll, please?
Collier-Wise.
Here.
Erickson. Holland.
Here.
Humphrey.
Here.
Mines.
Here.
Price.
Here.
Sorensen.
Here.
Ward.
Here.
Mayor Powell.
Here. Would everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Item 3 are the minutes from December 18th regular meeting and December 18th special meeting.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve both sets of meetings. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item 4 is adoption of the agenda. John, Mike, any changes that you're aware of? Any? Okay.
Move approval. Second.
Motion and a second to approve the agenda as printed. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Under visitors to be heard, addressing the council. Persons addressing the council shall use the microphone at the podium. Please raise your hand to be recognized, go to the podium, and state your name and address. For items that are not on the agenda, members of the public may speak under visitors to be heard on any topic not on the agenda. Remarks are limited to 5 minutes, and no decision will be made at this time. For agenda items, public testimony will be taken at the beginning of each agenda item after the subject has been announced by the mayor and explained by staff. Any citizen who wishes may speak one time for 5 minutes on each agenda item. Public testimony will then be closed and the topic will be given to the governing body for possible action. At this point, only city council members and staff may discuss the current agenda item unless a council member moves to allow another person to speak and there is unanimous consent from the council. Questions from the council members, however, may be directed to staff or a member of the public through the presiding officer at any time. At this point, is there anyone in the audience that has a topic that they wish to bring up that's not on the agenda? Anyone in the audience? Council, anyone on the council have an item they wish to bring? Okay, seeing none, then we'll move on to public hearings. Item 6, retail on-off sale malt beverage license for Old Lumber Company, Inc. for Old Lumber Company Grill and Bar at 104 Market Street parking lot. Mike, please.
An application was received for a retail on-off sale malt beverage license for the Old Lumber Company Incorporated for the Old Lumber Company Bar and Grill parking lot at 104 Market Street. A public hearing was advertised and was held on December 18th, and at the request of the applicant, the public hearing was continued until this meeting. This parking lot is the former First Dakota National Bank parking lot, the southeast corner of Market and Kidder, from Market Street east to the alley. Included in the packet is the police chief's report, plan provided to the police chief by Chad Grunwald, an aerial photo of the lot showing the location to other businesses and residential uses, and the notice of hearing. The retail on-off sale malt beverage license is for the license period ending on June 30th, 2018. The City Council has the ability to issue a license on basically 2 criteria: suitable person and suitable location. As to the suitable person, the Old Lumber Company Incorporated has a liquor license and malt beverage license issued to the location at 15 Court Street. The liquor license was recently renewed for the location on November 20th, 2017, with the restriction that it be for the interior of the building at the location. With respect to location criteria, the City Council should review the ordinance sections 112.21 and 112.22 that are included in the packet. The ordinance provides in making a decision to include factors such as noise, litter, closeness to residents. The license fee for an on-off sale malt beverage license is $300, of which $150 is retained by the city and $150 is forwarded to the South Dakota Department of Revenue. Following the input for the public hearing, the City Council will be asked to make a decision on the approval or denial of the issuance of the retail on-off sale malt beverage license. If the motion is made to deny the license, the reason should be included in the motion. And if the motion is to deny the license, applicant may not reapply for this license at this location for 1 year.
Thank you, Mike. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak on this topic at this time?
Just here if you guys have any questions on top of what I already talked to the police chief about for the location of it. So
Go ahead.
Do you have a general idea of how many events you'd be looking at per year?
less, to me, it's kind of a handful of it. I mean, it's one of those you don't know until you actually try it, see if it works or not. Obviously, there's, certain things that we'd put in place as far as like where we did the fencing or where we put porta potties, where we put garbages, that kind of thing. It's one of those, until I have the license, I'm not going to go invest thousands of dollars in some of that infrastructure stuff if we can't do the license. Same reason why I need it for the whole year, because then it ties into a blanket on my insurance policy. So it's kind of, I can't really make any those decisions until I know what we can do here. Handful of them. I mean, to me, it's not an everyday thing because there is labor and install and that kind of stuff. So, do I look at it as an everyday thing? No. I think more during the summertime, nicer weather, depending on other events going on in the area. If there's nothing going on, well then, maybe it's something to look at to help promote Vermillion, promote downtown. I mean, anytime you can get people here in the summertime in our downtown area, great. They'll spend gas, they'll go to different restaurants. It gets them downtown.
Rich, please.
If you do this, or you have this thing, is that going to take care of the previous years you've asked for street closures to run events? Would you also continue asking for street closures, or would this?
It depends on the event. I mean, certain events make it advantageous. Like for Polar Plunge, it's advantageous to close the street right there directly to the south, just because then you have bathrooms, that kind of stuff, and it's easy to fence that off. And with now the bank not open there, in that spot, there's no businesses right around it. But, it does kind of take away, there's just more options there. Having that over there, you wouldn't always have to close the street right there because of it. So.
Okay, if I understand it correctly, you're proposing a permanent fence on the north and south, and then portable on the east and west, is that right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
when it's not being used, what is it?
What's that?
When you're not using the area, is it?
It'd just be a parking lot.
Parking?
Yep.
For-
Just
for-
basically a decorative wrought iron fence on the north and south side. Pretty much, if you can kind of envision kind of the black wrought iron fence that's in front of like Dakota brick, something similar to that, just something decorative.
Okay, thank you.
Steve, please.
Jack, can you explain the insurance advantage for you?
Because it goes for the whole year versus
Walk me through the whole thing.
the cost of pulling per event versus having it in 1 year. That one event would cost me the whole year.
Okay.
And then every time trying to pull for every event, it's just not cost preventative. It's just waste of time.
So you're saying that your liability insurance, is this what it? What?
Yes.
Okay. So
If you pull per event,
Yeah.
say it costs $1,500 for the insurance for the whole year, that one event can cost you $1,500. And then you pull for another event, another $1,500. So it's just not worth it.
okay.
I have a couple. When it's not in use, will you still have the porta pots and all that kind of material in that area?
I'll pull those off of the side. I don't plan, like say we have them, I don't have any intention to keep them stored there.
But yet your deal says you have to keep the product on that site.
That's your beer. And so we can have a trailer there, but if we're not going to have like an event going on, obviously I'm not going to store 40 cases of beer. I can send that back to Conklin or whoever. But during the event, we would store it right there, probably an enclosed trailer.
When there's no event, is it a public parking spot?
No, it's a private parking.
So it wouldn't be parking for the public when not in use.
It's parking for Old Lumber Company.
Right,
if-
but not
and-
for the public.
No. No different than the bank. It was parking for the bank, not public.
Well, like evenings, people would park there across from your business.
But they're not supposed to,
Oh,
because it said on there, bank parking before, that's what the sign said.
well, I'm a little concerned about the open thing that you're presenting to us. You don't know how many events, you don't know if you would still have the street closing types of events, and I don't understand that the city should just give a carte blanche for you to decide at any time when you want to hold something, instead of where it presently is. If you want to hold an event, the city can then say yea or nay on each event. So I'm a little concerned with, personally, a blank check.
Well, it's not really a blank check, because
Well,
I still have put the infrastructure in. That same conversation I had with the police chief is going, I'm going to enclose it. It's no different than operating normal business. You still have to have the infrastructure there to actually operate and do it.
I'm
It's
talking
just when
about
it's
the
outside, then you have that option.
I'm talking about you making the decisions on how many events. For example, one of our establishments has some outdoor facility, but they can't have it during Dakota Days or something of that nature. Well, you have no restrictions. If we were to approve this as written, there's no restrictions on how often or when or anything. And personally, I'm a little nervous about that blank check.
I don't know why. I mean, I've been in good standing with Old Lumber Company. We haven't had problems since it's been open. So I guess I've given you no reason to doubt my operating ability at Old Lumber Company.
Oh, I think
Considering it's one of the largest places in town and what we've brought in and done it, I would think my character should stand on that of going, given the benefit of the doubt on that.
Well, one of my issues would be noise, because you are near neighborhoods, residential areas, and so certainly an outdoor facility would get noisy.
You have commercial all the way around that whole property.
There's residential within a block. Yes, Rich?
I think it's probably more towards John. Even though he would have this facility available, if he were to do anything at all, he'd still need a noise permit, isn't that correct?
Excuse me, a noise permit comes into play if you're going to have amplified sound. That's usually the ones that get a noise permit. So if they're planning to have, any group is planning to have a band, speakers, anything like that, that's typically when they get it, that generates it, versus a patio, for example, or beer garden, something like that, which is just picnic tables, that sort of thing, without any amplified music. Usually they don't get a noise permit, but the possibility of reaching that level or annoying neighbors is still a concern.
Tom, please.
Would this be similar at all to the lot over here at Center National that you own, where when it's not being used, you're going to store trailers and other things on this lot, or?
No, over there, the only reason why I bought the thing is to keep it a parking lot and for options like this. Other than that, I mean, over there, yeah, I put trailers over there, but there and over there is two totally different things. I mean, prime example, we had Warning Shots come play. They stored their little trailer there when the band was there, and when they're done, they moved it off and it was away.
I too, Mr. Mayor, have questions about it, since it's discretionary for us under the law to weigh this issue, about the character of the neighborhood being partially residential, which has come up with other topics we've talked about as well, and the proximity to those residences and other businesses and the activities. So those are reasons I think we could deny this. Just my 2 cents.
Other comments? Steve? Okay.
I was just going to say, I think the difficulty is we don't really have an example of something like this before. You know, it's not connected to the building. It's on its own. I think, you know, for the most part, we would be very open to the individual events, as we have been on the street closures for the most part. And so it would be helpful, I think, to have some examples of those before we decide for something for a whole year. And that's right now, a lot of it's a little ambiguous. And like Tom mentioned, we've gotten a lot of feedback about the character of that neighborhood and what people do and don't want in that area. And so I think that just knowing what those folks, how those folks would feel, it would be nice to maybe get some of these under your belt so that we would have something to look at before we took such a big step.
Steve?
Yeah, I think the neighborhood is my main concern, the residential neighborhood, contiguous with yours.
Biggest thing is your guys' code is have a road block over there, the difference between that lot and over there. There you have your chamber building right next to it. You guys have Ribs, Rods, Rock and Roll down there that use that parking lot for that event.
Mm-hmm.
So you've had events down there. You haven't had issues with that.
I don't think it's an issue with events. And
But here's the thing of why deny it versus allow it. Even if I was going to have a band or something like that, I would come get a noise permit either way.
right, because Chad, when we give you carte blanche use of one property, we don't have any. You have freedom to do whatever you want.
No, because I still have to put the gates. I still have to have all the porta potties. All the infrastructure has to go in there.
Right.
So it's not just here, let's just start selling beer right on a parking lot.
Why isn't it that? I mean, every day you could legally sell beer every single day and have people out there, and that might be fine. But why don't we have some individual events during the summer, whenever you want to do it, this year, and see what it looks like, and the neighbors can see what it looks like, and then if you are making so much money that you feel like, I've really got to do this more often.
It's just pointless because, and have an event of $1,000, if you actually put one on, it's just not cost preventative to do it.
Well, then what's the point? If it's not going to give you some profit, why would we do it? Why would you do it? So you've never had any events in that parking lot.
You guys had Ribs Rods in there. How many years has that been there?
That's one time a year. If you want to do a one time a year thing, but I don't think that's what you have in mind.
Sure.
So I'm going to say no, and that's the reason why. But I think if you have some events that you have planned and you want to give it a try this year, and then I will be absolutely amenable to giving you, the daily malt beverage or whatever it is for that event, and you see how it goes. And then the neighbors can
I don't know how that falls with the license. You deny that, then how can you go back and say, hey, we'll give a daily one, but we won't do the yearly?
It's a different license.
Yeah. And
Rich, I'm sorry, Steve?
well, and if we deny now, then you can reapply next year. You're not.
Next January?
Yeah. You have 1 year.
Rich?
Yeah. If I read this thing correctly, it's not for a year, it's just for 6 months.
No. Mike?
This license would run from when it's issued to June 30th of 18.
That's right.
Is the licensing period we're applying for.
Right.
There's another statute that says that if the license is denied, the applicant may not reapply for the same license at the same location
Oh, I
for
understand
1
that.
year.
Yeah, no, that's not the point I was getting at. If we approve it this time, we're approving it for 6 months.
Yeah.
And if he throws too many very, very loud parties or whatever happens like that, in June, it could be denied.
We'd probably be reissuing it in May
Oh, okay, whenever that is.
when we'd be holding the
What I'm
hearing.
getting at is that this is not a 1-year commitment this time. This first time is a 6-month commitment. And I believe the man. I think it's worth the effort of finding out. And in 6 months, I was very wrong, and it had too many complaints, then we had the option and the right to change it in June.
I'm more on Steve's side about the neighborhood as one of the key things, plus
We're talking about one house, if you look at the map.
I'm talking about, well, you can go further than just one block, as we've seen with another part of that territory. The part that bothers me is there's no limitation on the number of events that could be held. Well, so I don't see that as having another bar across the street in perpetuity. Tom?
I don't know whether this is for Mike or for Mr. McCullough. Does the code, city code, as far as how many people can be inside this fence, does that enter into this at all? Because there's a code for the building, of course, but is there a code for a parking lot too, for overcrowding?
I don't know. There's nothing in ordinance on your liquor license regulation portion of the ordinance. The only other thing that I could think of would be some fire code type of thing on overcrowding for safety reasons, but I don't know if it applies to fairground areas or not.
Have to look at the
I'd have to-
NFPA.
and,
That's where I talked to the police chief about it, and that was some of the things we addressed of, you know, how could we let people in and out if there is an issue? So, I mean, the police chief didn't have an issue with it, with what I presented with him, so.
Is there further discussion? And we've kept him here quite a while. Are we ready to turn it to the council? Any further questions from Chad before we turn it to the council? Okay, thank you, Chad. Council? What's your pleasure? Well, for a lack of a second, is there any other comment, question? Is the issue dead, or is just that motion dead? Jim?
there is no motion at the present time.
So we haven't made a decision. Right, okay.
Well, I would move to deny.
Okay. We have a motion and a second to deny. Any further discussion?
We need to cite reasons.
Okay.
Motions to what the reasons are.
Unsuitable location.
And the other specifics that we'd like to add is, this could be on noise, it could be
Do you have any thoughts?
litter, lack of garbage.
I would say, I guess my main concern is the proximity to residents and not contiguous to the current, to the owner's location.
Any further, anybody want to add anything else to that?
For zoning, it's zoned for it.
No, I know. There was a second.
Yes. Well, we'll give it a try. There's a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
It has failed. Thank you. All right. Item 8A is a resolution adjusting landfill rates. And Bob, please.
Good evening. A little background on this. The City of Vermillion entered into a joint powers agreement with the City of Yankton, Clay County, and Yankton County to provide solid waste services. The agreement didn't create a new entity, but provided for the operations in the City of Yankton to be conducted by the City of Yankton, and the operations of the landfill and recycling center to be conducted by the City of Vermillion. The Joint Powers Board was created to facilitate communications between members and coordinate the operation, provide recommendation to the member governing bodies. The board hired HDR to do a cost of service study for the joint powers. This was to look at all our rates in our operation. And the joint powers heard the presentation from the consultant and reviewed the final report at our October meeting. At our December meeting, the Joint Powers Board recommended a rate increase to be adopted by the City of Yankton and the City of Vermillion to be effective February 5th of 2018. The only rate that the Joint Powers Board recommended changing was the 1 per ton garbage rate. Other rates such as asbestos, contaminated soil, and others are not proposed at this time. The cost of service study identified that the landfill gate charge was significant to handle the cost of disposing waste that was hauled directly to the landfill. The gate charge at the transfer station was not adequate to handle all the costs associated with accepting waste at the transfer station, then transporting it to the landfill, then having the landfill take care of it. The tonnage waste provided from the transfer station is needed to have a significant quality of waste to operate the landfill, with a higher charge to dispose of the waste at the transfer station versus the landfill. The intent is also to create an incentive for the waste to be disposed directly at the landfill, and this would potentially reduce costs at the transfer station, which would overall help the budget of Joint Powers. The Joint Powers landfill operations for the first 11 months of 2017 reported a profit of $186,997. And the recycling operation for the first 11 months reported a loss of $115,295 for a total profit of $71,702 for the first 11 months of 2017. The recycling did sell a large amount of material in December of 2017, which isn't on this, which would help decrease the 2017 loss on the recycling side. The landfill tonnage for the first 11 months was 36,702 tons. And the cost of service study identified that the Yankton transfer station typically gives us 58% of our garbage at the landfill. So the development and closure of the landfill cells and the purchase of equipment are costs that the Joint Powers in the budget. Additional revenue is needed to cover these costs. Replacement of a scraper, a maintainer are likely to be needed over the next 5 years, and a loader will probably be added to that also. The projected rate increases are the landfill, which is the license hauler. The current rate is $46.50 a ton, and our proposed rate for at the landfill would be $47 a ton. At the landfill for an unlicensed hauler, it's $52 a ton right now, and we would raise that to $53.50 a ton. At the transfer station, the license hauler right now is the same as the landfill, which is $46.50, and we would increase that to $50.50 a ton. Unlicensed hauler is $52 a ton, and we increase that the same as the landfill at $53.50. The attached resolution is to set the fees at the landfill as indicated above to be effective Monday, February 5th, 2018. The Yankton City Commission will consider increasing the rate transfer at their January 8th meeting. The proposed rate increase is projected to allow the Joint Powers landfill and recycling operations to better meet its operating, capital, and debt service expenses. Administration recommends approval of the resolution revising landfill rates. So if there's any questions, I will be happy to answer them for you.
Thank you, Bob. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to comment on this topic? Seeing none, Council. Tom?
Do you happen to know the ratio between licensed hauler and unlicensed hauler at either the landfill or the transfer station?
No, there
In other words, per ton coming in?
Most of it is unlicensed, or the license rate of the garbage that comes in. Yep.
Other comments, questions? Motion and a second to approve the resolution adjusting landfill rates. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item B, 2018 payroll resolution, and John, please.
Thank you. Per state statute, this is an annual requirement within the first month of the start of the budget year, or as changes are made, to annually publish the salary resolution with our legal notices. So included in your packet is a copy of the 2018 payroll resolution. It does include, per our 3 union agreements that we have, a 2.25% cost of living adjustment, which was also applied to general employees as well as city council. These amounts are all budgeted within the 2018 budget that you adopted last September. And just as we do have changes throughout the year, those changes are listed with the minutes that follow that particular change that takes place. So there's nothing new here. It's just simply taking the payroll amounts that you approved and putting them in a resolution form that's published with legal notices.
I noticed that starting yesterday, the state minimum is $8.85. Are we above that?
Yes, all of our positions, including our seasonal ones, receive the minimum wage or higher. The only difference, although it doesn't quite fall in there, is sometimes with their EMS service. You'll see that some their base rate is, when they're actually on call, is always above that, but there's also a per hour amount that they're paid to be on call, and that amount is less, but that's per FLSA that they can have an arrangement like that.
Thank you. Anyone in the audience wish to comment on this? Council? Motion and second to approve the 2018 payroll resolution. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item C, declaring a street department skid steer loader surplus. Shane, please.
Thank you. In 2017, the budget sessions, council budgeted for the purchase of several pieces of equipment for 2018. The equipment being purchased will be replacing current equipment. One of those pieces of equipment that's to be replaced is a 2013 Bobcat S590 skid steer loader. Staff would like City Council to declare that 2013 skid loader surplus and have the surplus Property Appraisal Committee meet to appraise it. Staff recommends appraising the skid steer loader at a cost of $25,740. Administration recommends declaring the skid steer loader as surplus and moving forward with an appraisal by the Surplus Property Appraisal Committee.
The offer from Siouxland Bobcat, does that enter into this?
Yeah, it does, and I was going to kind of touch on that on the next item. So we'll take that offer from them and for a trade-in value. They've given us 90% of that appraised value if you guys set that price.
Council? A motion and a second to declare a street department skid steer loader surplus. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item D, resolution authorizing the purchase of a street department skid steer loader. Shane, please.
Thank you. As part of that 2018 equipment replacement schedule, like I just said, we look to replace the 2013 skid loader. Administration would like to replace that with, take advantage of the National Joint Powers Alliance that awarded a bid to Bobcat. The price for that 2018 S595 T4 Bobcat skid steer loader, meeting our specs, was $57,222. Siouxland Bobcat from Sioux City, Iowa will honor that price, and on top of that, they have offered us additional dealer discounts, bringing the price down to $37,007. In addition to that, they have offered to accept our 2013 skid loader, which we just surplused, as a trade-in. They offered us $23,174 for that trade-in, allowing the existing equipment included with the trade-in. The total cost for the city would be $13,833. By going with this offer from Siouxland Bobcat, we will save $3,167 compared to what we estimated to get off a trade-in and what we thought the new skid loader would cost. With that, administration recommends approving the resolution authorizing the purchase of a 2018 S595 T4 Bobcat skid steer loader for $13,833 from Siouxland Bobcat from Sioux City, Iowa.
Thank you, Shane. Council? Tom?
Given that we're making $8 more than we expected as a minimum, I move approval.
Thank you.
Motion and second to approve the resolution authorizing the purchase of a street department skid steer loader. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thanks.
Thank you, guys.
Item E, Economic Development Reinvestment Program Agreement. And John, please.
Thank you. This is an exciting way for us to start out the 2018 budget year, calendar year, with opportunities like this. Mesaba recently approached the city about an exciting opportunity that they have to take on some additional business and expand their employment base here in the city of Vermillion. The City Council was briefed on this opportunity a little bit earlier today. To help them facilitate this economic expansion, the City Council is asked to consider one of the reinvestment payment program agreements that you've looked at previously. As you may recall, over the last couple of years, we had one of these with Polaris to help facilitate their expansion with that conveyor belt program project that they completed. And then most recently, the University of South Dakota with the athletic complex, with the SCSC and the soccer field, the track, that whole area. In essence, what it is that this is an opportunity for the council to consider rebating part of the applicable sales tax that these large projects carry out to them, which basically helps them reduce the cost of their overall project. And this particular project, as well as the Polaris project, the state of South Dakota is also a partner in the project. At this point in time, it appears the state will be providing a ready loan to help with the financing of this project, as well as some job retaining funds, which will also contribute to it, and they'll also be considering a sales tax rebate. The agreement that was placed before you this evening does provide for up to $24,000 of sales tax to be rebated for qualifying equipment purchases that are stated in the agreement. So to receive that $24,000, they'd have to expend at least $1.2 million to get the 2% back. The language is very similar to the previous agreements that the City Council has considered and approved. The language has been presented to the City Attorney and reviewed by him and was found to be acceptable. We'd be happy to answer any questions. I know we have a couple of people here with respect to this particular project who can answer any additional questions you might have.
Thank you, John. Is anyone in the audience that wishes to speak on this topic?
Good evening. Nate Welch, Executive Director of the Vermillion Area Chamber and Development Company. We'd just like to come here on behalf of Mesaba as well and the Board of Directors of the Vermillion Chamber and Development Company and provide our support for this project. We think it's a fantastic project. Mesaba certainly is a leader in our community, not only on one of our largest employers, but they really face the challenge that we see throughout not only Vermillion and the entire state and the region in workforce development. And this project is a great example of one of the many efforts that they make as a company in continually trying to reinvest and ensure that we've got good, strong workforce development. So we fully support this, and we thank you for consideration and ask you to consider it as well.
Thank you. Any comments or questions for Nate?
Quick question, if you don't mind. You'll be letting us know what the state does or doesn't do then following this, I hope. I'm
more than happy.
Curious. Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience wish to comment on this? Seeing none, turn it to council. We have a motion and a second to approve the 2% sales tax reinvestment or rebate back for actual expenditures in Vermillion. Is that my understanding of the resolution? Okay. Any further discussion on this? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, and get it in place. Item 9A is fuel quotes, and Mike, please.
I think there's some fuel quote sheets sitting in front of you. The first was for 4,350 gallons of unleaded gasoline from Stern Oil, was $2.0596. Item 2 was number 1 and number 2 diesel fuel dyed. The blended cost $2.4358. The third item was number 1 and number 2 diesel fuel clear. The blended cost is $2.74. The second quote we received from Brunick Service on item 1 was $2.19. Item 2, $2.43. Item 3, $2.80. Stern would be low on 1 and 3, and Brunick's was low on 2.
Council? Motion is second to accept the low bids. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you. Item 10, John, City Manager's report, please.
Thank you. Just a reminder, the next City Council meeting is on Monday, March Monday, January 15th.
Might be March too.
Some of the staff was happy when I said Monday, January 15th. There are some government offices that are closed that day for the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday, but the City Council will have a meeting on Monday, January 15th. Next Monday, January 8th, our City Planning Commission will meet. They do have 3 items on their agenda at this point. One is rezoning of the property north of the Prairie Inn. That would be to a planned development district. Another item is amendment to the zoning code to address the telecommunications towers within 300 feet of residential zoning or uses, as well as the placement of those in NRC or Natural Resource Conservation zoning. It's been a topic over the last year that the City Council has heard a couple times, and we've had some neighborhood input, but just kind of a notice that will be part of that agenda. And then the final item is a zoning amendment related to the counting of garage spaces as part of the required parking spaces for our rental properties. The Christmas tree collection site is open, and we do accept real trees. Just a reminder of that. This site is the same as previous locations, the south side of Broadway Street, just west of Dakota Street. We do ask that you remove any plastic that you might wrap the tree in for transporting, and we'll keep that site open until January 15th of this year. And then also a reminder that sidewalks are to be cleared 24 hours after the end of a snow event, and make sure that you store that snow in the proper place. And then included in your packet was one raffle notification. USD Student Athlete Advisory Committee, they are selling $5 raffle tickets. Prizes include 2 Summit League basketball tournament all-session passes valued at $350, a Coyote Gear basket valued at $300, and a gift card basket valued at $200. The drawing will be held on February 21st of this year, and all proceeds from this raffle do benefit the Vermillion Food Pantry.
Thank you, John. Any comments or questions for our city manager? Seeing none, then we'll move on to invoices payable, or stump Mike. Mike, number 33, bleachers, benches, where is that for?
That was for the softball field over by the Armory. They redid the backstop and stuff on that one. This was the kind of the final stuff to get some bleachers and stuff for going in there.
Thank you. Do you have any other comments or questions on it?
Curiosity question on number 61. Is that something we resell, or do we store that much?
That's what we resell down at the airport. We have the jet fuel and the aviation fuel tanks down there. We buy fuel to go in there, and then we got an automated system down there where people can buy fuel.
So we have it available.
Yep.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Anybody care to pay our bills?
Pay our bills.
Motion and second to pay our bills. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. We have no consensus agenda, Steve. Motion and second to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. We're adjourned. Score.